This is a video about how asteroids are fake and gay, and maybe sometimes there is something out there that people can use a telescope and see, but all the stories that they tell us about it are completely fabricated BS stories. And it seems like asteroids in particular, it's like a spook story. They want you to think that there's dangerous things floating out there that could crash into Earth and kill us like the dinosaurs. Well, dinosaurs are fake too. So let's get into this video. I saw this image on Reddit and I had a thought. So this is supposed to be an asteroid. My favorite asteroid photo, Ryugu. The elites, the experts are always handing us photos and extraordinary tales, and we're just supposed to believe everything that they say. And there's no way to corroborate, right? None of us can go out to this asteroid Ryugu and confirm that they're not just handing us some other picture and saying, hey, I went to an asteroid. I guess before I get too sidetracked and all that, I think that asteroids will be relevant when the end happens. And even if you aren't yet religious, I think everybody should read the book of Revelation and see what. So you may not believe it's true at the time, but I think everybody should know what the book of Revelation says about the end times so that when it starts unfolding, maybe that'll be enough for some people to finally repent and follow Jesus, as they'll notice, hey, everything that the book of Revelation is talking about is happening. I think it's really obvious that the mark of the beast is on the horizon. But anyways, in the end, the sky's going to open up, the firmament is going to open, and stars are going to start crashing down on Earth, and I firmly believe that they're going to sell it as the aliens are launching asteroids at us. They're redirecting asteroids from the asteroid belt, and they're launching them towards Earth. I believe that's what the media is going to say. And really, it's the firmament has opened up, and the end is here. So, did anybody else have this thought? Because I had this thought right when I saw that image, and I went to the comments, and this was near the top. If this wasn't a reply to the top comment, it was very close to the top. It's actually wild, this photo. Looks so alien, yet eerily familiar. Something about the lighting just does it for me. And then the troll enthusiast had the reply that I was looking for. Looks like it's underwater. Yeah, this just looks like an underwater photo. And there's like layers. There's layers to that. It's not just, oh, they're deceiving us and they're using photos of underwater to pretend to be an asteroid. There's layers because the Bible tells us that there is water up there. The firmament separates the waters below from the waters above. Okay, let's keep going. I'm just going to go through the slides. I think that this is really interesting. So I just started researching this Ryugu asteroid. And I'm just going to show you some coding and some interesting things that they talk about. So, one thing, it's only supposed to be 3,000 feet in diameter. And if it takes a mass as big as Earth itself in order to give us gravity, which is just buoyancy, there's no such thing as mass bending space-time and like sucking things towards it like a vacuum. Earth doesn't suck you towards it. It's just that buoyancy is a thing, and anything that's dense, more dense, is going to go down. Do you know what's hilarious? One of the biggest questions that people ask, whenever you bring up the density thing, they're like, well, then why does something fall in a vacuum? Uh, isn't anything more dense than a vacuum? So it still goes down. I really don't understand that confusion. But yeah, there's up and there's down, and more dense goes down. That's all that there is. But anyways, let's suppose that this gravity thing were true. If it takes the entirety of Earth to create Earth gravity, then if there's an object out there that's only 3,000 feet in diameter, that thing's not going to create any gravity. That is going to be negligible. Everything is just going to fly off of it. there would be no gravity, essentially. It would be such a weak force that I I do not believe that, even if the stories that they tell us are true, I don't believe that an object that's only that big would be able to just like hold on to all of these little things around. I think that it all would have just blown off by anything. These things are supposed to be spinning and flying, and there's solar wind, and it makes no sense. Uh, I don't think there's anything that more interesting. So the bottom here, these are things that they reverse engineer. They clearly want to have this story of like life starts on Earth from like a comet coming in and crashing, and it's like they're really trying to promote this idea of I don't know, it's like cosmic seeds. Like an asteroid can be like a cosmic seed that goes out and crashes into a barren place and life starts to form all of a sudden. So that's their conclusion, and then they just walk backwards and they're like, okay, so what are we going to pretend that we find on this asteroid to further that storyline? And so that's just the bottom sentence here. The sample showed the presence of organic compounds such as uracil and vitamin B3. So whatever. It has been synthesized under cold laboratory conditions similar to outer space from pyrimidine embedded in water ice and exposed to ultraviolet light. So they're just trying to, they have an agenda here. They're trying to use my science to go like, hey, look, you could have things that you need for life forming out in outer space land. Vitamin B3, it's also another, oh, you need this for life ideas. So I think that it's clearly this is just part of the propaganda. This gets talked as a diamond shape. So to me, this looks like obvious CGI. Like they're just, what's the Mario game? Mario Galaxy, where they turn everything into a ball. They just like wrap. They make these little tiny planetoid objects in that game. This just looks like, yeah, somebody took a picture of an ocean floor and mapped it to a 3D model that somebody made. It talks about a diamond. It kind of looks like an eye, like there's a depression in the center. But yeah, I don't. This really should give everybody odd vibes. It doesn't look like real life at all. It looks like just what I said. Like you have a computer generated mesh, and you've just mapped a real photo, probably, of ocean floor, is my guess. And oh yeah, diamond. Diamond equals 33. This thing gets talked about as diamond shape. I don't know exactly where. Brian May gets involved. Brian May from Queen. I clicked on it to make sure that it's the Brian May from Queen. Yeah. Uh Brian May got involved in this one. There was a 33 over here. It went from 33 to 24. It's a rubble pile, allegedly. Here's a cool image. Just check this out for a while. Yeah, I don't believe that's something that is only 3,000 feet in diameter would create, even if gravity were a thing, which I don't believe in. I don't think that an object this small would be able to hold those rocks onto it. It apparently was spinning way faster before, allegedly, if you just buy whatever story they're selling you. I think this used to be spinning a lot faster. That's why they say it has like a weird diamond shape, because it used to be spinning a lot faster. And I don't know. They always have a lot of stories. I'm just going through and looking for a magical underwater palace. So this was really big. Even the name Ryugu has to do with underwater. What do you know? Travels to the palace on the back of a turtle. Interesting. A mysterious box. Much like Hayabusa 2 returning with samples. So that's very interesting. It's young, only 8.9 million years old, guys. So young. That's just classic NASA programming, spitting out numbers that are totally irrelevant. It often reminds me of the show Whose Line Is It Anyways, how the only important thing are that the numbers are humongous. Other than that, they literally just pull numbers out of thin air. It really doesn't matter half the time. And then the other half of the time, they just want to say I'm a 33 or some other number coding. It's not always just 33. Of course, there's going to be people that get more into this gematria stuff and get really into the minutia of really heavily number coded things. But I think 9 times out of 10, they're just pulling numbers out of thin air, and it's kind of irrelevant to the situation. So there was some interesting stuff in here, so I'm going to just go through. Okay, the images from the camera of mascot, which is called Mascam. Scam. Muscam. The images from the camera, which is called Muscam. Okay. Cauliflower like, crumbly surface. Crystals shaped like coral reefs. So here we have another underwater reference. These crystals likely formed in liquid water. So I guess they're trying to say that there was some talk, oh, maybe Ryugu is an old comet or something, like comets when they lose all their ice or whatever. And this is totally mixing things. Comets are really interesting, a really interesting uh, astronomical. Like in reality, comets are really weird because they act in wacky ways. They look exactly like flashlights being shown underwater. And totally contrary to what they would tell you, there's all sorts of asteroids that are, or not asteroids, there's all sorts of comets that go really, really close to the sun, which totally contradicts their ice nature. And so comets are an interesting phenomenon, and they show signs, and a lot of comets have happened in weird times, and some comets have big year periods that they know that it's going to come back. But yeah, there are some weird things about comets. I don't believe what they say about them, obviously. I mean, this type of stuff, it fascinates me, and then I just know, hey, all truth shall be revealed. Our minds are going to get blown when we all learn about the truth of cosmology, what really is up there. And maybe asteroids are like a star that kind of stopped shining for the most part. And that could be a thing. Who knows? This was interesting. I just picked this slide because one thing that people, they just take the bait when it comes to the experts, and they totally ignore reality. This is how reality works. There's real life, and then we can use mathematics and statistics to model real life. And the model is at best a guess for what may happen. And then that's how modeling actually works. What the false buying into the science always has the right answer. When science is your religion, models prove reality. They go backwards. They do the opposite of what is the truth and what makes sense. What makes sense is you observe reality, you build your model, and you hope that your model does a good job representing reality. And then you could do tests to see, is this model good, is it not? But models will always fall short from reality because you're modeling it. It's not a complete representation. You're missing all sorts of variables. You're making assumptions. But when science is your religion, they allow that to go backwards. A model proves reality in cases like this. Of course, that's not true, but I'm just saying that if you totally believe every pop science thing and take it as truth, you're allowing models to dictate what your reality is. A simulation of the formation was performed, just a simulation, which showed that the parent body accumulated 2 million. They're going to tell you that they know exactly what happens because somebody made a simulation somewhere. I mean, that's enough. I've said enough about that. So I'm almost done. They had rovers, a bunch of rovers. They talk about Minerva here, an owl. Owl, Minerva. Unfortunately, my images got a little mixed at the end here. One day I'll figure out how to send images from one phone to another without the images getting mixed up. It's really annoying. You'd think, that we can land on an asteroid. You'd think that they'd figure that out by now. There's 13 surface features. They love to just name things, and go on and on. It's the same thing with the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs aren't even real, but there's gonna be people who it's their job to come up with the big names and go on and on about it had this going on and that going on. They love spinning a tale. And the more details and BS you can come up with something about it, then it must be true. The theme of features is children's stories. I thought that was really telling. These are children's stories. Alice's Wonderland is where the mascot landed. Even the name, calling it a mascot, is kind of weird. Jax sounds evil. Yep, Alice's Wonderland. So Minerva, Owl, just reminds me of the Bohemian Grove stuff. And, you know, speaking of outer space being fake and gay, the Bohemian Grove people, that's the most gay people in existence. There's a hilarious quote of Ronald Reagan saying that the most homo thing ever, the Bohemian Grove is the most supremely gay thing in existence. I picked this image for the 77. They like the sevens. There were more 33 coding somewhere, but you know, whatever. It's a round shape, kind of. The Western Bulge. See, high speed rotation of present day. So present one is highly rotating. I guess they want you to think that they can shoot something from Earth, fly out, find this tiny little thing, 3,000 out in space. That should be nearly impossible to find that thing. And not only that, it's spinning really fast, but they can land on it, they can take samples from it and shoot back here, no problem. The Western Bulge. Here's just more of that Minerva stuff, the Owl Shrine. And the Bohemian Grove is protected by a sophisticated security team year round. The Bohemian Club employs ex-military, you know, military, NASA, all of this stuff. Weird that these high up people would be referencing Minerva and the Owl. And this was kind of a weird thing. Prior to the sample capsule return, the amount of sample was expected to be at least 0.1 grams. I was like, that seems so small. Why would you go through all the effort of doing that and then get such a small sample? But then in the end, they actually turned out to be 5.4, 50 times more than anticipated. Man, their cup runneth over with dust, space dust. They only thought they'd get 0.1, but they're getting an amazing amount. I don't know. Did they just write that into the story because they wanted it to be like a resounding success? I don't know. Is there number coding involved? I don't know. Are they just pulling numbers out of their butt because that's all they have to do when it's made up? When things are made up, it's so easy. That's what's hilarious about one of the lowest level like arguments against NASA stuff is people say it would be harder to fake it than it would be to just go to the moon. That is the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. It's so much easier to just fake things than to actually do it. To just pull numbers out of thin air is way easier than to actually do things. Anybody can pull numbers out of thin air. Anybody can reverse engineer math equations where you put the answer you want and then you go backwards and then you just say, "Oh, this is the data that I collected." That's easier than actually collecting data that fits your agenda. You just work backwards. Anyways, oh, this was the other 33. It touched down briefly on February 22nd, fired a projectile, and then moved back. So you gotta believe they launched this thing out to a asteroid. They're landing on it. They're performing an experience. They're bouncing back off of it, and then do they go back? Who knows? Oh yeah, it went back after several weeks. So it went down on the 22nd briefly, flew back, and then back down on the 11th in July. So that's a 33, 22, 11, the 22nd of February, and then down here, the 11th of July. Man, that's amazing. They touch down, do some experience, fly back off of it, touch back down. Where's all the live footage of this? They better have put a camera recording all of this stuff. Why would they not give us? And here's where you'll see. If this was real science, real people who love the truth don't charge people money for it, and they share it abundantly for free. with anybody. Where's all the raw footage of this stuff? They should be plastering this raw footage everywhere. Everybody should have the entirety of the takeoff to, this is millions of dollars being put into this stuff, and you're telling me they can't just stick a camera on there and give us the raw footage? They will never give you the raw footage because it doesn't exist, because it's all a lie. And the data that they collect is just cooked up. They get some scientist to cook up the data, some satanic NWO scientist to cook up the data to hand out to universities. It's not really collected in my outer space. Somebody cooks it up and hands it out and says, interpret this data. That's how the magic trick works. Its mission was short. I just picked this because it's nonsensical. This is nonsensical. That's not how they would do this. Its mission was short-lived as was planned. The lander only had 16 hours of battery power and no way to recharge. That's nonsensical. They wouldn't make it like that, but they can put stories like this into their little things like this into their stories because they can say anything and people believe anything, even though this goes against any common sense that you would put all the effort to go out there and only give it 16-hour battery life. And I think that they just have fun writing nonsense into it because they know that people will believe anything. That's why I think that they do this. It gets people to be gullible and stupid. The more nonsense that they can write into their stories that come from an authoritative standpoint, they can get people to believe anything because you've lived your life believing all sorts of things that go against common sense. That is it for this video. Check this out. This looks like bottom of the ocean. So maybe real footage, but probably of their model going down to the bottom of the ocean somewhere. That's what it looks like to me. A lot of these images just look like underwater images. Hope you enjoyed the video. God bless everyone.